The riverbanks were lined with skulls, their empty sockets glowing under the eerie red moon. The Aghori Sadhu stood at the water's edge, chanting in a language no mortal should understand. As the wind howled, the surface of the river rippled. Something was rising. No one knew the exact origin of the ritual, only that it had been performed for centuries, once every 100 years, under the blood moon. The villagers feared it, whispering stories of men who had ventured too close and never returned. But fear breeds curiosity, and some cannot resist the pull of the unknown. An unsuspecting group of travelers, unaware of the ancient traditions that governed this land, found themselves wandering too far from their campsite. Drawn by the flickering flames and the rhythmic drumming echoing through the jungle, they approached the ritual site with hesitant footsteps. They should have turned back. It was supposed to be a simple adventure, an excursion deep into the untouched wilderness of India. A group of 5 friends, seeking something more than the mundane routine of their lives, decided to take a trip that would change them forever. Nina, the ever-curious photographer, led the way, her camera slung around her neck. Beside her, Aaron, the skeptic, scoffed at the superstitions the villagers had tried to instill in them before they departed. Cursed rituals, come on. It's just stories to keep outsiders away. Jacob, their guide, was the only one who seemed unsettled. We shouldn't be out here tonight. The elders warned us about the blood moon. Lena and Mark, the thrill-seekers of the group, dismissed his concern with a wave of their hands. Relax, Jacob. What's the worst that could happen? As they trudged deeper into the jungle, the air grew thick, and an unsettling silence fell over them. The usual chirping of crickets and rustling of leaves ceased, replaced by the faint rhythmic beat of distant drums. Nina raised her camera, zooming in on the clearing ahead. Through her lens, she saw figures clad in black robes, standing in a circle, their faces painted in streaks of ash and blood. At the center, a towering sadhu stood motionless, his gaze fixed upon the river. And then the chanting began. The travelers crouched behind a cluster of bushes, their curiosity battling their growing fear. "What are they doing?" whispered Mark, his voice barely audible over the steady drumbeat. Jacob swallowed hard. Aghori ritual. This isn't something we should be watching. We need to leave. Now. But before they could retreat, the sadhu turned. His eyes, dark and hollow, locked onto Nina's camera lens as if he could see through it. A slow smile spread across his cracked lips. Nina gasped as a sudden gust of wind howled through the clearing, extinguishing the torches for a brief moment. When the flames reignited, the sadhu was no longer standing at the riverbank. He was right in front of them. Aaron stumbled backward, his breath caught in his throat. The sadhu lifted a hand, long, bony fingers curling in a beckoning gesture. The villagers had spoken of such moments, of those who were chosen by the Aghori, never to be seen again. "Run," Jacob hissed, and they did. The jungle was a labyrinth of twisting roots and shadowed paths. The travelers' frantic footsteps crashed through the undergrowth, but the sound of pursuit followed them, unrelenting. Nina's heartbeat pounded in her ears. She could still see the sadhu's face imprinted in her mind. His gaze had been more than human, ancient, and endless. The blood moon above cast an eerie glow, making the very trees appear alive, reaching for them as they ran. Then, Aaron screamed. The group skidded to a halt. Aaron stood frozen, staring at his hands, where his skin seemed to be peeling, revealing something black beneath. "What's happening to me?" he gasped, his voice choked with terror. The answer came in the form of a whisper carried by the wind. "You have been chosen." Jacob grabbed Aaron's arm, pulling him forward. "We have to get to the river." "Why?" Lena sobbed. "Because it's the only way to break the ritual." The river shimmered ahead, its surface reflecting the blood moon like a portal to another world. The moment they reached the edge, the drumming ceased. Silence fell, suffocating and absolute. The sadhu stood across the river, his arms raised. Behind him, shadowy figures emerged from the water, their hollow eyes fixed on the travelers. "You cannot escape the offering," the sadhu intoned. You are bound to it now. One by one they were pulled beneath the water. Their screams were muffled, lost to the depths of the cursed river. Nina struggled, her lungs burning as unseen hands dragged her downward. Her vision blurred, and in the dim glow of the moon, she saw them, the lost souls of past offerings, their mouths open in silent agony. Just as her consciousness began to fade, a whisper echoed in her mind. Choose. One must remain, or all shall be taken. With her last ounce of strength, she reached for Aaron, pushing him upwards, breaking the surface. His gasps for air were the last thing she heard before the river consumed her. Days later, Aaron woke up on the riverbank, alone. The villagers found him, silent and shaking. He could not speak of what he had seen, but when he looked into his own reflection, he understood. The black markings on his arms had not faded, the ritual was not over, and the blood moon would rise again,